At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news. Revived and re-engineered, that's the new reality in Nasarawa State under the leadership of Governor Abdullahi Sule, who is repositioning the state for greatness and empowering lives with the Nasarawa Economic Development Strategy. From education to agriculture and infrastructure, Engineer Abdullahi Sule is exceeding expectations with his clear-cut Nasarawa agenda. Find out more on Nasarawa Focus, Mondays, 8:30 p.m.
Police arrest 16 armed robbery suspects via CCTV camera. Gunmen kill policeman escorting election results in Ogun. Cult war, rivers of blood, corpses in Lagos community. Ritual killings, I play along with human part hawkers, then call police, herbalist. 70 die as explosions rain fire on streets of Dakar. Burglar detained for stealing shoes, clothes worth 1.5 million naira.
Words, facts, opinion is the orchestra of these men who do not sway to the synthetic rhythm of opinion. The debater screams words trapped in tempos that run too fast to play back just as the instruments fall in and out of tune. Climbing a crescendo, men take a stand, testing and pulling, slamming the fact of each other, in and out. After the crescendo comes the climax, all notes quietly resting as the debates reach inference. Join me, Mark Otabo, as I conduct the symphony of debates on The Big Issue.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just the part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
I was in the street, sir.
You were too. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. It's this morning on TVC. We need to see that because you know, this is not. We wouldn't have needed to have say it before, but you know, things are different, and here we are. Thank God, and it's great. We feel great that you're out there as well. Okay, really, it's about picking up the pieces, isn't it? It's about picking up the pieces in the aftermath of the EndSARS protest, especially the area that is also getting attention now is that it was hijacked by, you know, hoodlums, the bad guys. So the distinction must be made between the protesters and the people who joined later on. My guest this morning, Chuks Nwoko, publisher, Millennium Development Goals magazine and social entrepreneur. Good morning, Chuks. And
good morning to you.
Thanks for seeing.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed, thanks for coming yet again, one of our regular guests. And we're delighted to also have Oladimeji Ibrahim. Mr. Ibrahim is a youth, is a sustainable development advocate, and Dimeji is a fresh graduate, and had it not been for all this, he would have been, you know, thinking seriously about his youth corps. Exactly. But all of that, you know, we're going to have to wait for the resolutions. And interestingly, both gentlemen were actually participated in the protest. Indeed, were actually on the streets. Let me start with you, if I can, Dimeji. We're talking about picking up the pieces now. So something went badly wrong. We've been talking about this. There was a time when it looked like the protesters had really achieved what they needed to have, what they wanted to achieve, but somehow the moment passed. And here we are, we have what we have on our hands now. Tragic deaths occurred. The army was involved. They're still sorting that out. Investigations must be conducted before we actually know what indeed can be authoritatively said. There's so much in the region of speculation out there. But the other thing that's coming about is lootings. Places are being looted, especially warehouses. And this has drawn criticism from some people that maybe the authorities, the customs warehouse, I believe, is the latest that was attempted to be looting, but you saw all those videos. Now, were those protesters or were those hoodlums? And I ask the question because when social media videos appeared, there were people who didn't look like hoodlums, maybe pointing to something like, is it hunger in the land? Give me your read of that extension of the legitimate, peaceful EndSARS protest.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning once again, Uncle Yori. I must say that basically we all know that there is a shift in terms of youth engagement in governance. It's now generational revolution because young people now see need to ask some questions, to demand for their rights. And based on the question you asked, you can see that there is difference between protesters and protesters. Let me just put it like that. Now, you can
between protesters and rioters.
Let's just say rioters, yes. Let's use the word rioters. If you can check the few days when we first of all started this protest, it was peaceful. We only have two spots, and the two spots was Lekki and Ikorodu axis.
Okay.
And later we moved to Alausa.
Okay.
Alausa. Then we stay at Alausa. Then Alausa and Lekki was our two spots where we interchange to advocate for what we need. And unfortunately, maybe I would just say because of the responsiveness of the government, then we now have a lot of young people who they call themselves young people who hijacked the protest. Because I would say emphatically that the protest was hijacked. And later on, we started moving into looting processes.
Okay. As I said, you were on the streets, so you had a frontline view. Because you said later on youths. So whatever you say in relation to the streets then, since you were there, I'm going to be taking you as something of an eyewitness.
Yeah.
You say later on other youths. I noticed you didn't use the word criminals or hoodlums or people that weren't in any way, shape or form connected with us. Is that your indeed factual observation?
Yes, that's my observation.
These were people you could refer to as youth.
As young people also, yes, because they are still hijacked, they are still young, and the next thing we'll see for them is just coming up with, cutlass and try to even disrupt and disturb some of the protesters on ground, because like one of my friends actually being robbed by one of them, collected his iPhone, whatever thing that is with him, money and the like. So we can still refer to them as, because they are with us. They join us in the protest.
I think other people are trying to refer to them as criminals, hoodlums, or any other such word, not those who had legitimate reason to be on the street. In other words, those that were taking the cover of the legitimate protest to wreak havoc.
What they did will make them to be called criminal. But at the point of the protest, we are all together as young people advocating for EndSARS.
I see.
So if we say they are criminal, yes, they are criminal because they put up the actions towards disrupting and affecting the peaceful protest we're trying to call the government attention towards what is really affecting us as young people, towards making our environment sustainable for all. So what they do can actually refer to them as criminals, and sometimes we can't even actually identify them. Because if you look at what happened in terms of the Alausa area, the first hijack that happened in Alausa, where Umblok comes with BRT buses and they started disturbing the peaceful coexistence of the environment. The next thing we see is that we have some set of guys who joined the protest, and after some hours, we find out that some people just started fighting.
Okay.
Then what happened? We don't know who and who is fighting. As a young person standing at the protest ground, we know that something will happen at the protest and people will start arguing. Then after they started fighting, then the next thing we see is cutlass. And the next thing we see is that, people started, cutting themselves, started using cutlass to chase one another, and the organized protest young people who are there from the beginning started calling for attention. What is going on in that sport? Then the next thing we'll see is that different guy coming with cutlass. So the next thing we can do is just to, try to protect ourselves. To say that we want to identify these people, then we call ourselves to a section. And that section tries to say, these guys are not with us. They are here to disrupt us. They are here to disturb the attention. They are here to, maybe the government, our orientation is that government actually sent them to come and disturb us so that we won't be able to advocate for what we need.
You felt they were government plans to cause mayhem.
Exactly. So we just started, who's a young guy who can take stones, started taking stone, throwing stone on them.
Okay. We
started pursuing them. It got to a time whereby protesters started pursuing protesters because we could not actually identify.
Interesting.
Identify that these are the people.
Very
but
interesting.
Once we decided to pick one of them and decided to hold one of them down, so the security agency, more mature youth who are there, just trying to put peace across to say, okay, don't kill them, don't wound them, just leave them.
Okay.
Let's hand them over to the security personnel, and we do that. We do just that. Then after that, the governor comes together and say, okay, let's have a judiciary panel, social things. We want a youth representative to represent it. Giving room for dialogue, giving room for engagement, so that we can also be involved.
You said, just to stay on you for a short while more, you say that you guys, you youths that were protesting, felt that these were government plans initially. Did you resolve that, or did you conclude? Because you then said subsequently, Governor Sanwo-Olu in Lagos came and addressed you guys, and everything went on. Did you resolve that in your mind, that thought that these must be government plans? Did you hold that conviction till the end?
Okay, yeah. These are perception from different.
Just
people.
perceptions.
Yes, perception
to be distinguished from fact.
From different from fact.
Okay.
These are perceptions.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Chooks, very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, he was in the streets, and by the way, what venues were you? You mentioned Alausa, so
I was at Alausa. I was at Lekki.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Chooks, you also were involved.
Yes, I was.
What area can you speak for, because you were there?
Okay. The point is that if you listen to Dimeji and picture him in the house where he lives with his guardians or his parents, how do you hold down a young man like this down as a parent, who have been able to send his child to school and is educated, and he has this, abilities? He just expressed himself. So that is the situation I had in my house. I have children who have gone to school. One is a lawyer, the other is a broadcaster. What people call on-air personality. Those are the two major grown-ups that I have in my house. So,
were you in the Alausa axis, or?
Yes, I was in the Alausa axis, but I was basically trying to protect my kids.
Okay.
I couldn't control the situation anymore. I said, you know what, let's go. So I dressed up and go. So that's why if you go to my Facebook page, you see the pictures I took and the videos that they even we all took together and all that. But it was the EndSARS protest campaign was of great interest to me, because I have suffered great brutality. My family has suffered great brutality, and my community has suffered great brutality in the hands of police and a certain individual that have used and all that. I think that we made that public on the 8th of August. So that campaign was of a great importance to me.
What you've just described is before the EndSARS protest at all.
Yes.
Really?
But the EndSARS, whatever, has been on for a very long time, if you remember.
Indeed.
The time just came.
Yes.
Don't forget that in the life of this administration, which is about close to 5 years, if not more than, they've been able to suppress other forms of protest, whether it's the revolution now and all that. They've been able to suppress it. This one, they didn't see it coming. So when it happened, my children said to me that your generation, and they spoke to my face, because I have a child who goes to work. The days that they have event in Lagos, she cannot come home. She have to sleep in a hotel room because of the fear of police. So they could connect with this young man, and they always wanted to go to the place. And I didn't just want them to go, so I dressed up, carried my cap and my banner, and went to the place. And it was peaceful.
Okay.
It was very peaceful. They had music, they had
That was
food.
at the beginning? Or throughout your participation?
No. In fact, it was at the point where I saw on a TV channel how that some young men came out from a BR2 bus and attacked the people who came one early morning to resume in the place, that I got interested.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to come back and I'll continue with you. I've got to go on a commercial break now. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back, and still having studio Oladimeji Ibrahim, a youth, and he was involved in the protest, as was Chuks Nwoko, publisher, Millennium Development Goals magazine. Chuks is also a social entrepreneur, and we were speaking with Chuks before we had to go to the break, and he was talking about how, he went, by the time he decided that, look, there was no option, he had, along with his grown-up kids, be part of it.
Grown-up children. Adults.
Yes, that's what I meant. Grown-up adults.
Yeah. They convinced me because I have them showing me how much they have been able to raise.
Sorry, did I just say grown-up adults? No, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. And I mean, when I saw videos that my children were sending to my phone, trying to convince me of the need for them to go out there. Now, because they are girls, I didn't want them to just go there. And I told them, you don't have children, so you don't know how it feels like letting your children into the street. So it got to a point where I decided I must go with them.
Okay. So in that sense, you were there.
Yes, I was there. So they showed me how, at the point they have raised 70-something million, how the central bank had blocked them, how they have resorted to Bitcoin, and all the stories they were generally telling me. I got convinced by those, plenty of videos that they were showing to me, and all the things that were going on in Lagos. So on a particular day, I said to them, you know what? I will go and join you guys, and I will be representing my generation.
Okay.
So I stepped to the place. And if you know how Alausa is, the gate that leads into the State House of Assembly, that even leads to the governor's office, was where this thing was happening. So government itself...
Anybody that knows the traffic light
knows where that place is.
Yeah.
These guys, I joined them there. Every afternoon to evening, I was in that place. And my children were happy.
Okay.
Now, the point here is that, like I said to them, I was representing my generation because there were things they said to me that I agreed with.
Yeah.
We haven't provided the required leadership for them. How come they are not safe? How come I'm asking them to see that when they have lost their own mates, where their own mates have lost their siblings to police, where they come from a community that have been vandalized, been desecrated by police, and I'm asking them not to go out, that I should allow their voice to be heard, and they need a picture showing that they are identified with their generation. They don't want to 10 years or 20 years from now begin to regret that they didn't participate. So we all participated.
Yes. Now all these were well received by the governor, Sanwo-Olu, who visited them.
Oh, it was well organized.
Yes. And so
music was going on.
And he
food
acted.
Was coming in. Water was coming in. If you got tired, you go home. Then you come back later. You have people who are leaving. You have people who are coming.
Now, Sanwo-Olu took all these concerns to the president. And largely what was required
by the youths
was acceded to.
Exactly.
Dimeji was speaking earlier, and he said, he thinks the thing evolved out of the EndSARS thing.
It was not acceded
to a generational.
It was not acceded to. The first response, and it's good that you mentioned you described the action of the governor. He stood up. He will speak to the people. He went to the overall boss. Who will constantly speak to his own children, to his own citizens from his written script, who will not take immediate action, who was trying to say, okay, we have disbanded SARS, we now have SWAT. That's not how a father provides leadership.
Okay.
I stepped out there, and by the time I got to the place, the young people there recognized that I was an elder, and they accorded me the respect, and they respected me, and they acknowledged my presence in the place. And they asked me, what are you doing here? And I said, these kids, these children are mine. I do not want my girls to come out of this place because of the fears that I have. But I come here to represent, and I was well treated. And I was well respected. And a few media organizations interviewed me. But you have this governor here going to see the president. I wasn't pleased with the reaction of the president. It wasn't a time to be wearing agbada. It was a time to wear t-shirt like the young people. It was a time to speak to the people from your heart. from your head, from wherever.
Well, let me take the point you made about when a government, the president added his voice to that of the Inspector General of Police, that SARS had been disbanded.
Yes.
But you also said that you immediately replaced it with SWAT, and you seem to indicate that that wasn't
I was just saying that because of the distrust and the disconnection.
Okay.
And there was need for you to stop sitting down when you are talking to the people. There's time for everything.
I hear you. But maybe coming back to you, I wonder, because I'm really interested in your perspective on this whole thing. When SARS was disbanded, that's what they said. The Inspector General of Police said it first. The president, doubled it, so to say. I suppose just about everybody realizes that you can't not have police at all in society. But essentially, because the police generally, whether they were SARS, whether they were not SARS, not just police, even any uniformed security person vacated the streets. This was a dangerous situation, perhaps you want to agree. Yes. And indeed, it was taken advantage of. It was dangerous, yes. There's a sense in which, let it be said, police are Nigerians too. They were demonized, they were demoralized, and all of that. And let me just bring that we're talking about the protest. Let me bring it right into yesterday. Depending on where you were in Lagos yesterday, there was traffic jam all over the place. And I think one of the reasons was that, that is in the afternoon. One of the reasons is that in Lagos here, we have what is known as LASMA. They manage traffic. They were not in evidence. They went all over the place as they usually are. So I must limit myself to saying that I couldn't see any in my orbit. You couldn't see any police, and of course, there was a gridlock. So when the authorities said that SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics Team, would be replacing the much despised SARS, what again was your perception as to that particular move? Okay, all right. So I'll just start by saying that, you see, we need to start looking at some of the approach we use to solve issues. In few days, young people say they don't want SARS. Truly, you disband SARS, and the following morning you are coming with SWAT. There is a miscommunication. There is no engagement to say that as you are disbanding SARS, and this is one of your agenda you are pushing forward, can we give room for more engaging conversation and dialogue? Okay. To say that, okay, we are disbanding SARS, and this is the next things we want to do. Okay. So you just come on with SWAT, and we are still angry. We still don't want to hear anything called SARS. And meanwhile, don't forget that it's not all about SARS. It's all about the police generally. Okay. So if another institution is coming from that institution, we still need to question that institution. So why can't you just try as possible to engage these young people first, with disbanded SARS, then come to round table, these and what. Don't forget that we have a lot of demand. So in other words, communication, you fault the authorities on their communication prowess. I don't know, Chooks, if you agree there, because it seems to me what I'm hearing from Dimeji is that, be that as it may, SARS, you said, you verbalize that you're taking it out, but then you've decided, as it were, without even consulting us, how, first of all, what do you think about that whole aspect? Because I suppose government is also in a position of, wait a minute, we're still running things here. By all means, you guys are right, but we still are running things here.
If you listen to Dimeji when in his opening remarks and all that, it's just a complete inability to discern the times that we live in. Okay. Like there's a generational shift. Our generation haven't recognized that yet. That there's a shift. So that this change that they talked about in 2015.
I would dare say that from what elders have been saying, that they dropped the ball, that they've disappointed their kids. I think they're beginning to recognize it.
Absolutely. But you see, the rules of management is simply what they needed, and that's what he's talking about. You have a situation. As usual, they minimized it. And as soon as they say EndSARS, they thought it was just all about EndSARS. Okay. We have a systematic problem in our country. Now, that's not a big deal. What leadership does is to recognize that, there's a whole breakdown in the system. It's not just EndSARS. And a few days later, by the way, you are the one who collaborated the fact that the governor took 5-point agenda to the president. So it was not just EndSARS. Do you understand what I'm saying? But that inability, that leadership inability
to engage,
to discern, you need to first discern that there's a shift. Then you cannot bring rules of engagement, rules of management, basic rules of how do you manage your home, how do you manage your business. It's the same principle. It's not a science. It's not a science subject. It's not even a biology subject. It's not even geography.
It's not rocket science.
Even rocket science is too far. It's not even basic science.
Okay, I have a caller. Good morning. Who's on the line? Good morning. We can hear you. Who's on the line? You can speak now. I think there's a connectivity problem because someone has called in. But just speak up. Just tell us your name if you finally hear us. We'd like to hear from you.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. What's your name?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Rowell.
Rowell?
Yes, that's my name.
Calling from?
I'm calling from Lagos.
Good, very good. Go on, please.
I'm calling from Lagos.
Okay. What would you like to contribute?
I want to appreciate this program, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. There is no morning I don't watch it because I'm a retired civil servant.
Okay.
Yes.
Glad to know.
My contribution is that everybody should be careful in this comment and in this protest of EndSARS. By my own experience, it's not every policeman that can face an armed robber. It's not every policeman. No matter their number, no matter their signal. These people you call SARS, when they say armed robbers are coming, some of them are dancing and celebrating that they are going to confront the people for whom they are set up. But there are some policemen who cannot even confront the ordinary hoodlums who are maybe vandalizing property. But these people you call SARS, they are the arrowhead of the police. I want all of us to be careful when we talk of EndSARS, EndSWOT, and whatever, whether SWOT or whatever they call it. I'm sure if we are not careful, there's going to be difficulty in policing Nigeria.
All right then. Thank you very much, Rowell. Really appreciate your calling in. And it's a point. It's part of
that's
it.
Part of it. You didn't see last man and all that. But the truth of the matter is that that story that you didn't see is not just only you. We've not been able to see agencies of government, some of the agencies of government, Kai and all of that. But the point is that when it comes to traffic, it's either it rained or there's a vehicular breakdown and all that. But Nigerians, especially Lagosians, I have had to control traffic at Allen Avenue.
Exactly.
We know this morning as I was coming here, there's some build-up of traffic on the 7-Up axis. You know, we'll step in and clear it.
I'm going to return to the point. Let me go on another commercial break. Please stay with us.
If a pack of souvenir is 1,875 naira, how much will it cost to get for 750 guests?
1,406,250 naira.
Correct.
Your girl is very sharp.
She takes after her brother.
For years, Cowbell Milk has been building great minds and strong buddies.
Ma, me too. I like to have brain.
Cowbell, our milk.
Now available in evaporated milk. Evaporated just for you.
Do you want to win? Take your smartphone, place a bet on 1xBet. It's very simple. Just one click, and then watch your bet win and enjoy every victory. 1xBet. Virtual games, real wins.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back. Still with Oladimeji Ibrahim and Chuks Nwoko, and we're looking at, if you want, the aftermath. Picking up the pieces. What are the lessons, and generally reviewing the whole situation. Rowell called in and he spoke about what we have also, thought that you can't have a society that doesn't have any form of police and that kind of thing. But the other thing that's interesting that you brought up, and both gentlemen have mentioned this, I think first by Demeji, is that he's not too satisfied with the way or the extent or how well government actually engaged with the protests. I think there's been sort of criticism for the president, but his spokespeople did say, especially those that criticize the president for not saying anything about the protest when he did finally speak, you've heard them say that, the president was waiting on the outcome of those investigations that are going into this whole, quite frankly, fiasco.
It's just a priority.
Yeah.
I think that it's a kind of priority. Your house cannot be on fire as if you believe that you have a house. And you're just waiting for, we saw the picture, the live image.
Because he's the president, his word carries tremendous weight. Yes. And he probably didn't want to put a foot wrong, is what Femi Adesina, speaking for the president,
as a leader, you will always,
clarified.
most of the time, as a leader, Trump should keep quiet. Because they are criticizing and abusing him all the time, but he has not stopped talking.
Well, there will.
You can't be a leader and get into all this.
To be fair, different personalities, different presidents, different personalities.
Well, but the role is the same: leadership. Leadership.
Angela Merkel.
Leadership.
Angela Merkel, Obama, Trump. They're not of the same disposition.
They are not. But the job of leadership requires. Except you are telling me that what I'm saying is not true. That you come from a house, don't you? Don't you have people that you live with? Don't you have a servant? Don't you have a driver? It's a talking job.
Exactly.
It's a talking job. If you cannot do it, that's why God gave you mouth. This thing was given to you for only one purpose, to speak.
You said exactly. So you felt that the president didn't do the diplomatic shuffle
the larger
sufficiently.
Percentage of, let me say, the population of people you govern actually raise up to say, yes, there is need for you to change some things. And you waited for 13 good days before you can come out and say, yes, this is what we are trying to do. Okay. And if you look at the trend of the statement, you can see that these are words that are not even appealing to what young people want to hear. Then what is now the essence of the investigation you are waiting for? Since 13 days to that. Now look at what the governor Sowolu did. He was with us at the protest ground. He collected the letter. Same day, he went to Abuja to present it.
And he wasn't the only governor. It needs to be said, he wasn't the only governor that behaved that way.
Exactly.
Just about...
It's about standing up. It's about being...
Yes, and quite frankly, all the governors that had this situation, well, most of them, the Ondo governor was like that. Quite a number of governors. So what we're saying is that Sanwo-Olu's lead,
it's an example.
Is an example.
Yes.
Let me take another call. Femi has called in from the UK. Good morning, Femi.
Yeah, hi. A very good morning to you, sir.
Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Sure. Go ahead, please.
So, yeah, hi. I think my points, basically, I'm a criminologist, and I've managed to follow the trend of events back home. I think the problem really lies at information dissemination. Okay, right from the very top. The president failed to manage the process correctly. When he eventually spoke, he did not touch on the subject of what everyone wanted to hear. We had the military who were denying quite categorical having any hands in the I wouldn't call it massacre, in the scene of crime that happened in Lekki. And then we had a state governor who clearly didn't manage the news appropriately as well. Now, following yesterday's press release from the military, which clearly now suggests they actually attended the scene on the invitation of the state governor. So now we're having a crisis of managing information. You're having the governor trying to throw the military under the bus, and now you have the military now trying to throw the state government under the train. So quite categorical, we have a problem there. And I think what I'm trying to call myself a Nigerian, by the way. I think what the problem we have clearly is we do not have a system in place where we have a body set up to manage crisis management. What clearly shown to the entire world was we have no idea of how to manage crisis on that global element. And going forward now, we've now had a situation where there have been inconsistencies in the way people have been trying to dissuade themselves from the incident. So my take here is no one wants to see the state go into anarchy, okay? So now we have an issue where the governor, I've been following his speeches over time, and I think when he initially, the very first speech that he said, he actually admitted going to the CIC to deal with those troubled spots. Nobody wants to see those elements parading themselves and making enormous havoc on that sort of global thing. So you got the CIC involved, the CIC got the army involved, send them to those troubled spots. By so doing, the guys on Lekki, who clearly were demonstrating their right to protest, to peaceful protest, and now we saw on camera the amount of devastation, the devastating effect of the involvement of the military. If they had gone to those troubled spots and clamped hard on them, I don't think we would be having this conversation.
Yes.
So I think well and truly, we do not have or know how to manage crisis.
All right, then.
That magnitude.
All right.
And I think it's such a shame. It's such a shame. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Femi, for weighing in on this subject matter. Let me hear from you on, Femi's submission, because I was going to ask just before Femi called in, so it's just as well. So how did we get to the protests that you gentlemen have spoken about, that you participated in, that were, quite frankly, well organized. Well organized. People will say war. Not that you know the meaning of that, but here we are. How did we get from that to the army being involved? And I remember when recently APC national leader Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he finally spoke, he said he just wanted to know from the governor, did you order? It is
very simple. You've got politicians who got irritated by what they call this protracted whatever.
Did you order? The answer, it was almost like a rhetorical statement, because it is said that no governor, none, has the power, has the authority to order the army around. Now we're hearing, as Femi has reminded us, that the army is claiming that they were invited in on the matter. And by the way, the statement that the army put out before this one that we're talking about was to the effect that they hadn't done anything wrong. They had done their duty.
But you see, the danger of these inconsistencies is that our leaders don't know that they're causing a big gulf. Lack of integrity is a major deficit. It's a problem. So tomorrow you come and tell people, and they don't believe you. You start quarreling with the youth. They just like
communication and information we're talking about. And if you look at it, before now, before the governor actually declared a curfew, you can see that Lekki was one of the most peaceful protests ground that we've ever had. And if not because of what happened at exactly 6:45 or so in the evening, the soldier came and started shooting young people who are asking for their rights. You can see that this conversation wouldn't have gone more far than what we are trying to talk about now.
I hear you. Well, excuse me for a moment while I take Pastor Victor calling in from Bayelsa. Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning.
Okay, go right ahead, please.
Yes, are you after me? Yes, sorry, it's my passport. I said my name is Captain Victor.
I'm very sorry.
Retired from my assassin.
I'm very sorry, Captain. I'm very sorry, Captain. Captain Victor, in calling in from Bayelsa. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Captain. Captain, you still there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, carry on, please. Go ahead.
I want to, yes, I want to really recommend your effort, especially your TV station. Yes, I'm hearing you. Yes, I want to recommend your efforts, especially your TV station, for being outstanding for this period of problem in our country.
Thank you very much.
I want to make a point. The point I want to